Yes, it is true. The Black Ice Hockey Podcast is back in action. My name is Blaine Adams. I'm right here as always with your co-host Nick Jenks Jenkins. What's going on, man?
Oh man, exciting news today in regards to college hockey. We will get to that. I'm kind of burying the lead here a little bit, but
A little
no man,
foreshadowing, as that
little
us in the business would say.
little foreshadowing here. So stick around if you like college hockey news,
Right.
people. Um, no, things are good. Can't complain. Just working my butt off a little bit. We are in the midst of some new information coming out for the Four Nations face-off. I think the rosters are set to be released in the next couple of weeks. I just read that somewhere. Um, a couple other things going on with some interesting, uh, I don't really know what to call it, but like interesting starts to the season for several of these teams.
Yeah.
It's been a really weird year so far, I guess, in general.
Yeah, I think the start of any hockey season is just like getting your feet underneath you as fast as possible and
Yeah.
not prolonging if you are in that dry spell as some teams near and dear to our heart are, but
Right.
it's it's just like figuring out how long you can go without figuring it out, and then once you figure it out, you have to get it together to keep figuring it out while you figure it out. So you know,
Whatever
it's
you just said.
I was trying to keep going with it, but I had to stop my brain power. I don't have it much right now, so it's a little crazy. But yeah, outside of the hockey realm, Jenks, like the people want to know what's going on in just everyday life.
Man, it's been pretty slow. We're getting into the Thanksgiving season. We just exited the Halloween season, so transitioning all of the decorations. And I'm a huge Christmas guy, so I'm already jumping
Huge,
straight to getting the Christmas tree up. Huge Christmas tree,
yeah.
just the biggest Christmas tree.
The
So
mass. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million, the smallest loan.
the smallest node. Uh, yeah, another big, I guess, world event that's happened in the last
Oh yeah, I
week
guess I guess
is
that did happen this last week.
the the U.S. election, and the Don is going to be back in office for us once again.
The Don,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I'm sure everybody's well aware of that. We don't need to break that news to anybody.
Because
So
we're straight down the middle. You toss a coin, it literally lands right on the edge as far as we go. So it is what it is there. Yeah, it's about the same here. It's the gauntlet of holidays. You have Halloween,
yeah.
Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and then Christmas season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's another year we get to pay Mariah Carey a gajillion dollars for just existing and making one song that she does every year. But hey, good for her. She can rock it for sure. Um, Although I have been getting into like more instrumental, like violin and like piano Christmas songs, like just no singing, just
Okay.
just like straight up like Silent Night, but like they're hammering it on the violin and the piano. There's these two guys that do the cello things. Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
seen that on YouTube? Those
Yep.
guys are pretty sick. So
Yep.
yeah, it's just like mixing in a little different variety. Some say listening to classical music when you're younger increases the brain power. So maybe I gotta just trying to increase the knowledge over here, Jenks.
Yeah, you're probably too old for that to work at this point.
Past my growing years, just into like the middle ground where you just stay steady and don't break. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Um, but jumping into some hockey news here, I think we have to start with the Jets. Like they're probably one of the hottest teams in the NHL, if not the talk of the town right now. 14-1 as of recording this. First team to ever start that hot. 14-1-0, meaning they don't even care about OT. They haven't taken the team to OT yet, and this is the hottest start that any team has gone in the NHL, and I just want to hear your thoughts around the Jets.
Yeah, best start in NHL history. I don't think anybody thought the Jets were going to be a pushover by any means this season. Surely they were going to be up there, but I don't think anybody would expect they'd be in first place after the first month of the season here. Connor Hellebuck pretty much dominating the league. He owns the best goals against average, best save percentage. He's leading the league in shutouts. I mean, he is just showing how dominant he is. And
Yep.
fortunately for the Americans, he will probably be the starting goalie for the Four Nations.
Did you see
Um,
when they played Dallas, the Winnipeg Jets fans started chanting, what is it, America's backup or
for
USA
Ottinger, yeah,
backup? Yeah, that was sick. So,
that was funny.
yeah,
Uh,
that's just testament to the guy's playing incredible right now.
he is lights out. And I think another important piece is it's not like one single player on that team is dominating. If you look at the top 10 scorers in the NHL, none of them are Jets right now. So they're getting contributions from everybody. They're showing how strong their depth is. They're showing how strong their elite goaltending is. And, I don't think they can sustain this pace throughout the rest of the season, obviously, but surely they're going to be one of the best teams as we come into the end of the season, and they're going to be a favorite to stay the first place team in the West.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible when you think of like just good teams as far as last year. Like Canada never really like stood out outside of maybe like the Connor McDavid workhorse show up there, but that had to end at some point. I don't think once once Florida got up, I just don't think they could ever like mentally get over that hurdle. And I just don't see any Canada teams in the Stanley Cup this year again. But possibly, I mean, are the Winnipeg Jets the Buffalo Sabres of this year? Because this is what Buffalo does usually. They get off to like a 10-2, 13-4 win streak, and then they're like, that's enough wins for the season. But
Oh
it's
my
so
God.
hard to like continue this like 82 games of Connor Hellebuck being lights out. Like, give the guy a break, huh? Let him go on
I
summer
am
vacation.
I am positive we don't have any Winnipeg Jets fans that listen to our podcast. But
Yes.
if we did, they just stopped listening because you compared them to the Buffalo Sabres.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. The Buffalo Sabres are, quite honestly, they start this way every season except this season. But
Except they don't start 14-1.
well,
They
they
might
start
win
like
like their first four
they
games, and then
start
lose their
they start
next
hot.
20.
They start hot,
No,
Jenks. Come on, come on. You can't,
but
don't play devil's advocate here. You gotta pick a side. Gotta pick a side. Uh, but but yeah, they're off to a hot start. And Calgary has cooled off a little bit as well. So they're really standing out this year as possibly one of the Canada's front runners to hopefully get in, but only time will tell. And
yep.
the Jets, they're the better Jets as far as major football or major sports goes. Jets this year in the football. If anybody watches American football, brutal. Absolutely brutal. I have Aaron Rodgers in a DraftKings, no free ads, but DraftKings best ball league, and it's just fucking awful, awful out there.
Oh my God. Why
Yeah,
would you
it's
pick him?
well, he's my second one. I have Jalen Hurts as my
Okay.
first pick, but
Okay.
it just pains to watch sometimes. It's really brutal out there. But I wanted to get over to another highlight of the season, and quite honestly, I think people are talking a lot about Ovi, but we're not talking about how Ovi is getting these goals and possibly a replacement of Nicholas Backstrom in Dylan Strome has
Mhm.
assisted. He had like, oh, I think Ovi had 8 goals in the last so many games, and Dylan Strome was an assister on every single one. Has Dylan Strome hit his stride in Washington? Uh, quite honestly, I think yes.
You could make a case that he is in the right spot. He has found a home here. To your point, he is assisting on almost every one of Ovechkin's goals so far.
Yep.
They look like they actually have some chemistry. Strom probably is having the best year of his career at this point. I mean, he looks like he fits in. So, you had brought it up. I think he is sort of this like new age Backstrom for Ovi, where they're just on the same page and they're getting it done. And I think if they keep this up, if they can continue to play together and stay healthy and continue this chemistry through the season, there's a case to be made that Ovechkin could hit the Gretzky record this season yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking very possible, especially with Ovi lighting it up already this season. And I mean, maybe Dylan Strome called old Backstrom like, hey, how do I pass Ovi? Like, what does he like? Maybe he's getting some pointers from Ovi, like, hey, this is what I like or I'm used to. Like, since we're playing on the line now, like, let's work on just passing me the puck. Just I won't pass to you, you just pass to me. That's how it works over here in the capital of the world. So but outside of the Capitals, I think they're off to not a terrible start as well, being in a pretty dominant division in the metropolitan area. Let's see, they are third in the Metro, 10-4 so far this season. So I just look at some of these teams and I always say like, can they last? Because I think Penguins, they always do this every year. Everybody's calling for everybody's neck. Everybody's saying, hey, fire this guy, fire that guy. Like, everybody relax still. It's not the All-Star break. Sid only goes hard after the All-Star break. So it's which team? I know this is springing it on you. So I'll give you a little bit to think. Out of the four divisions, the top three teams in each division, which team do you think can hold this hot start or hot pace through the whole season?
So you want one pick from each division of who can
I
keep
want
this
your
up.
favorite pick.
My favorite to keep
Yeah,
this up.
keep this hot start that they're on.
Uh, yeah, I don't know if we're talking about scale. I really don't think that the Jets are going to keep this pace. Like I said, I think they'll still be in the mix to win the West, no doubt about that. But they're not going to finish this whole season with like 5 losses. That's just not.
Sure.
Um, there's nobody really else in the West that is like dominating to start the year. I think if I had to pick one team that is off to a really good start, and I believe that they can keep this pace, is probably the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, as we record this right now, they are 11-3 through their first 14 games, and Carolina gets a lot of criticism for not having like a superstar player,
Right.
but they've got a lot of really good players, and they have a lot of really good defensemen, and they've got a young, talented goaltender in Kachetkov, and then when Anderson's healthy, he's really good for them too. I just think they have the depth to handle some injuries that come throughout the season. They've got the talent that's needed, and they play a hard game. They're not, passerbys where they don't want to get hit. They can't play through contact. They've got some tough guys on that team too, and I think realistically, there's no reason they shouldn't sustain this pace through the rest of the season. So
Yeah.
the same thing with the Jets in the West. I think Carolina's probably in the top 2 or 3 in consideration to win the East this year.
Yeah, and it's really cool how some of these teams rotate like through like ups and downs, and I think Carolina has been down for a while. I mean, you think '06 was their last cup, and just like seeing Eric Stahl, Jordan Stahl like go there and play, and the whole Jeff Skinner saga, the whole goalie
Yeah.
situation between Anderson and what was that one guy that played in like the SP and then like got brought all the way up?
In
Uh,
Carolina,
yeah, he was like he played like I think like 10 or 15 games and like won a bunch, then just got manhandled, and then he got shipped out.
Scott Darling,
Darling,
is that who you're talking about?
I think that might be it. He played in the SP. I know that for sure.
I think he was the Chicago guy. I think. I'm trying to remember who the guy was for He might have been in Carolina too, though. I can't remember. I'm gonna look him up real quick,
Yeah, well, you look that up, and
just out
I'll
of curiosity.
make my picks. And I think in the West, we really have to look at Minnesota and say, are they playing at a different level right now, or is the West just this bad? And then I question that to myself, and I look at the Pacific Division. The Kings are first in the Pacific Division. Pacific Division.
Specific, the specific
Yeah,
Pacific Division.
yeah. So, I'd see that, and I'm like, have the Pacific Division really fallen off? Possibly, because I saw a stat earlier this week that Trevor Zegras, through the same amount of games in his first 5 seasons, has been on pace for about 40, 50 points about now. He's on pace for 23 points this season, Jenks. That's what he's on pace for right now. I I don't know what's going on in Anaheim. I don't know if Gudis coming in and being the captain has really slowed things down as far as progression has gone. I don't know if it's Trevor Zegras uh, getting a girlfriend that's way above his pay grade and just taking him on trips. I don't know what's going on, but he's certainly trying to be Austin Matthews, but Austin Matthews just has way too much swag to be this low in points. So if I had to pick a team that can hopefully keep the pace this for the rest of the season, I'm picking Minnesota. I think they have a good, strong goaltending tandem. I think Fleury's going to play lights out for his final season here, and especially, you go around the league, like nobody wants to score on a guy in his last season, but some people have to do it. I know it's tough, but just that mental aspect of things, I think, can help them. Um, in the East, I like New Jersey. I said it again. Jack Hughes is my favorite for MVP. I think he's going to have another lights out year as moving forward. So those are my 2 picks for that. Uh,
On a quick note, revisiting that Scott Darling thing, it was Scott Darling. He
Scott Darling.
started in the SPHL in 2010.
Yeah.
Played 30 games in the SPHL, worked his way up to the ECHL, AHL, played 4 seasons for the Blackhawks and 2 seasons for the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So,
See, we were right. We just,
fun fact.
Sometimes I begin the puzzle and then you're like, let me just finish it. And that's usually how I work, because I
Team
am
effort.
awful with names. That's actual factual. So I wanted to. There's a coaching tidbit here, and I wanted to get your thoughts around the whole Mitchkov getting health bombed by Tortorella. Seemingly, quite possibly moving in the points department early in the season, and honestly, I think the runaway favorite for the Calder as far as the beginning of the season right now. But did well in points, did well overall, and I think just meshing with the Flyers system. What do you think is the reason Tortorella would health bomb him for 2 games?
Probably, I don't think it's that he's not playing. I think it's a learning thing and an adjustment thing. Because remember, this is his first season in North America.
Right.
So the game's a little bit different. I think it's probably just a matter of, hey, we want to develop you in the right way. So let's point out a couple of things that we may not like about your game, and let's put you up in the press box and have you watch just to see how the game develops and watch these guys doing this type of thing. Watch the other pros that are on this team and see if you can pick that up. And just, I think the key is just don't rush him. Right?
Yeah.
It's his first year. He's so young. He's got so much talent. Let's make sure that we develop him the right way and that he's a well-rounded player. And that sometimes that involves not playing every night.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with them saying we're going to sit you down for 2 games and then you're going to be right back in there. So it's just a learning opportunity, and probably just them saying this is our plan for your development and this is how we're going to make you the best player that you can be for us.
Yeah. And I look across the league and I see so many young guys, and it's kind of unfair for them, but to make the draft more marketable or more like
Uh-huh.
sellable to people to understand, like, quote unquote, how good these guys are. And we've talked about this, is we gotta get out of the comparing people to like OV, or comparing people to like Drysaitel or Crosby or McDavid or McKinnon. Like, these guys come in and they've literally played, say, like AAA 18U or NCAA D1. The NHL is full of those guys. Like, in NCAA, you're still kind of nervous. Like, I don't care who you are, you still get kind of nervous. Like, you're playing against Sidney Crosby in the NHL. You're playing against, like, literally a team of you first liners from the NCAA. So it's not like you're playing like a fourth line grinder that just got barely on the NCAA team. Or in the KHL, you're getting all the imports that didn't make an NCAA team or didn't make an NHL team. So you're still not playing at the highest level of talent there is. So just like being patient with some of these guys, I think, is crucial. And I think it's cool to see, like, Tortorella. If you look at like some of his interviews, from like when he started to now, he was like a complete 180. I think, like, he's like little older. He's like, all right, like, I can't like bash people's head in with a baseball bat like I used to. So like, how do I teach and also not be the hardo that I was? And his answers sometimes to some of these interview reporters, I know they're trying to like bait him into like really like hitting him with a soundbite, but the reason he gave for benching, not benching, but health bombing Mishkov is, it's just the process. That's, it's what we're doing. That's how we're developing. That's just the process. And I think that's totally smart. And I know the reporter was like, wanted to catch him like, oh, his upper chest right muscle, like, don't fucking worry about it, like, yada yada. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see like Tortorella also learning, because he doesn't want to end up being fired like that guy from Toronto. What's his Babcock? He didn't want to change his habits at all. So it's good to see some of the old guard of coaching rotate into kind of new age techniques. Another thing that happened this past what weekend is the Hall of Fame game, which kind of includes uh, what do I what's the phrase, uh, a grab cash, like, you know what I mean, like,
Cash grab.
okay, yeah, it's like, but it's like a jumble of people. It'll come to me at the end of the podcast for sure. But just like a random people throughout the hockey history to get together to play the Hall of Fame, and kind of celebrate the couple guys that are being inducted. And if those of you don't know, we'll throw the image on screen now. And I'm not going to read off all the names, but I think a few people definitely need highlighted, and one of them being Mr. Pavel Datsuk and also Jeremy Roenick. I think those two guys everybody kind of knew and really deserved to be in there. But what are your thoughts around the game in general?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jeremy Roenick's been eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, inducted in the Hall of Fame for a couple of years now, and finally getting recognized for everything that he did for
Well,
the
I
game.
think he also said some crazy
Well,
things.
yeah,
So,
I
in
know.
the NHL, was like, I don't know.
His media career hasn't gone perfectly.
Right.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
I think the one name that you didn't mention that he deserves all the credit in the world too is Shea Weber. I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably going to go down as one of the best players to never win a Stanley Cup. He bounced around at the end, went to Montreal, played until literally his body gave out. That last cup run, he left with, it was a handful of injuries, like a busted ankle and a bad knee and a torn shoulder. Like it was a laundry list of injuries.
Yep.
So he deserves all the credit for what he did for the game and everything that he did. He was really one of the the first star players to come through the Nashville organization, and really helped start to put Nashville on the map. So all the credit to these guys. They absolutely deserve it. A couple of USA Team USA women made it as well, and then David Poyle is one who deserves recognition in the builders category. The longtime general manager of the Nashville Predators and some other teams as well, but he was in it for a long time, and he did so much for the game and expanding the Nashville market into what it is today. So it's always cool to see these people who have dedicated their lives to the game that we love to watch and play, and get the recognition they deserve. So congratulations to all of this year's Hall of Fame inductees.
Yeah, I find it interesting they do the builders. Like I always thought that was kind of like stupid, but learning more about the game is, especially like as you grow older, there's more things that happen outside of just playing. Like just
Right.
having like your all-stars and your players play the game. And these GMs, they go through practically hell. They go through probably more than the players will ever know. And just to start a team from scratch, like I bet, the Vegas Golden Knights GM and coach will probably be in like from their first season or first couple seasons at least. And
Sure.
depending on how Seattle goes, I'm sure Seattle will be in there. And just kind of growing the game around the country, like in Nashville, is definitely crucial for the growth of hockey. So we look forward to next year's class. Obviously, just waiting for I forget how long you have to wait, like 5 or 10 years after you've been retired. So Crosby will be in there, Malkin obviously. So it'll be cool to see some of these guys get moved into their final resting spot. Um, Another highlight over the past weekend, McDavid closing in on 1,000-point marker. Now, if we want to say, I always feel like McDavid just got into the league, but he's been in the league for almost 10 years now. If not, this is his 10th year. And this guy has been putting up 150, 130, 120 point seasons practically since he entered the NHL. It is insane to have a guy hit this 1,000-point marker in his 10th season.
So here's a fun fact about where we're at with that. McDavid is currently tied for 99th place all time in points with Jason Spezza. Jason Spezza has literally played double the number of games. He's played 1,248 games. Connor McDavid is tied with him in points at 657 games. Just absolutely bananas.
Nuts.
The pace that he's on. I mean, let's say he doubles his games. He's going to be where's that? So let's say he gets to 2,000 points. He's going to be one of two players all time to hit 2,000 points. He will be second place all time in points.
Right.
It's just, and he'll have only played 1,300 games at that point. Like, it's ridiculous to think that's possible.
Do you think he gets to 2,000?
I mean, if he can stay healthy, why not? If he keeps scoring at this pace and he can stay healthy, he's only played 10 years in the league, right?
I can't even. It's so crazy that we even think about this or talk about this. Is like, it's the LeBron effect. Like, how do you pass around the MVP award to somebody that literally is doing the most incredible things every single night? Like, are we so tired of McDavid being so good that like we have to share it? You know what I mean? Like
You're right.
man, so it's incredible what this guy's doing. And in January his jersey's gonna be retired up in the old EIPA. So it's pretty cool to see and pretty remarkable. We're literally living through history right now. We're living through it. I mean, Crosby, Malkin, McDavid, McKinnon, like Panarin, Igor, like we're living through stuff that people are going to be talking about, like Brodeur and what's that guy's name? Osgood and Lindstrom and these guys that are so iconic now, but back then people were like, how do we give it to Lindstrom again? Do we give it to the Norris to him again? You have to. You have to. I don't know.
You just have to operate season by season. Who was the best player this season? It doesn't matter that we've given it to him the last 10 years in a row. He
Yep.
was the best player again. Give it to him.
Right. And speaking of best player, this goalie is quite honestly has some of the craziest saves that I've seen in recent years. UC Saros made one hell of I don't even know what you want to call it, on back save, glove save or whatever. I I just want to hear your thoughts around the whole thing, Jenks. Like, give me your reaction to this save.
I don't know how he does. I don't know how goalies do this. I mean, we've had a couple of these acrobat saves already this year from different people. Saros is one of these repeat offenders. He always seems to come up with like a how did he do that play?
Right.
And it seems like a couple of times a year we're like, oh my God, how did he stop that puck?
Right.
Saros is showing the desperation, man. I mean, we don't have to get into the Nashville Predators, but that team is currently tied for last place in the NHL, and clearly Saros is like, I'm going to do everything I possibly can
Oh my
to will this team to win. And making acrobatic saves is just one of those things that he's trying to do because his defensemen are leaving him out to dry, man. So he's forced to do stuff like this.
Dude, Barry Trotz, his one interview, he's like, if we're not gonna be winning now, I'm all in for full rebuild. Like, then we're rebuilding.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't even, if your coach said that with 10 games in, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm being sent down. I'm being packed up in my suitcase. The wife, they gotta pack the kids, get the U-Haul going. I I don't even know what's going on in Nashville right now, but they brought in and re-gunned, some would think. You know, UC Saros signed an 8x8 and Stammer and what's the other guy? Marchessault? Did they bring in that kid? Who's the other pickup they had this offseason?
Marchessault, yeah.
Yeah, see, look at that brain power. So, so, yeah, it's tough sledding right now in Nashville, and we'll see. Hopefully, they figure out this slump. Another reaction point I want to get from you is the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League. They finally got jerseys this season. Thank God, because like just having the diagonal city name is just not a good look, or having like the PWHL logo, not a great look, like especially if you want to start like selling merch and expanding the game and expanding to different cities. I am a fan of having logos for teams. That being said, Jenks, I want to hear your we'll say top 2 jerseys in order. Go.
So in addition to them getting their actual jerseys, they finally got team names too. So it's like PWHL Boston, PWHL Minnesota. So we've got the Boston Fleet, the Minnesota Frost, the Montreal Victory. I don't know how you say it, Victoire. Damn French people.
Victoire. They always got to be extra with it.
Victoire. The New York Sirens, the Ottawa Charge, and the Toronto Scepters. But yeah, I think the jerseys are pretty creative. I really, I don't think there's any jersey that I look at here and I say I don't like that.
That's true.
I think there's some that, they all kind of follow the same template. I think there are some that sort of look like they tried to mirror a team, like the Ottawa jersey sort of like looks like they
Calgary.
Yeah, exactly. So they took sort of the same color scheme and design from Calgary a little bit. But you know what? There's 2 that I really liked here. And I'll say my second favorite team is probably the Sirens. I really like that. I like
That
I
was
don't know if
mine.
you're laughing.
That was
I don't know if
mine.
you're
That was
laughing.
mine.
Yeah, okay. I like the color scheme. It's different. The logo works. I just think they're clean looking jerseys. And maybe I'm showing my favorite colors a little bit here, but my favorite of all of them is the Toronto jerseys.
Really?
I
Okay.
I really like the logo. The baby blue gold thing works, but I really like the logo. It's simple and effective, sort of like almost like a spin-off, maybe if you wanted to say it's sort of a blues template, but a different shade of blue. But yeah, I would probably say those are my top two jerseys. What
So
about you?
it's confirmed you're a Taylor Swift fan then. It's confirmed.
Oh, okay.
That
Now I
is
can't.
that is Taylor Swift. And you said it, Jenks. There's no takes
You
backsies. You already
you've
said
ruined
it.
that jersey for me. Nope, you've ruined
It
it.
is confirmed. You heard it here first. Breaking: Jenks is a Taylor Swift fan. So, um,
Yeah, I'll be spending $12,000 on tickets to the next concert.
yeah, I see you singing in a subway with about a gazillion other people too. But my number two pick is New York Sirens as well. That's very New York. It's just big, bold. It has like kind of like a street art aspect to it a little bit. Um, so I do like that jersey. And I'm going with the Fargo, or what is it? The Freeze, Minnesota Freeze. I was gonna say Fargo because that's the USHL, Big F. So um, I really enjoy that jersey. I like the purple more than the white. Um, so a big fan of that. I think overall, as the first round of jerseys goes, I think this is their best they best work so far. I know in like previous years there were like the Buffalo Bison or whatever that was called up in New York, and I really like those jerseys. So maybe New York can get a second team and bring that city back to life a little bit because they're hurting for a real good sports team and the team
Yep.
that doesn't throw the ball to the other opposing team 300 times a game. Uh, not like Josh Allen, it's just brutal things out there. But so uh, a big topic this season and throughout really the NCAA within the last couple of years has been this NIL thing. Is Do we pay our college athletes because they bring in millions and millions and gazillions of dollars, or do we not pay them because they are still learning and still getting an education? But you're not learning. You're literally playing a sport. Everybody knew this except I guess the NCAA because they're like, we don't want to share our money. So just this past week, NCAA voted to accept CHL athletes, and that's the WHL, OHL, and the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. I think I got all three, right, Jenks?
You got it. You
Oh,
nailed
look
it.
at that!
Look at you go.
It's like I'm a
You're on
hockey,
fire
hockey
today.
analyst or something. Give me the scout box, huh?
You're having an absolute stellar day
Brain, if you want to get anything from me today is the option. Like my brain is on. But so, but they voted to finally allow the NCAA players or the CHL players to join the NCAA, which is huge because we never thought this was possible until today. So, Jenks, you're the NCAA guy. What's going on here?
Man, this has been a long time coming. I think it's fantastic news for the game of hockey and for players that are looking to play at the next level everywhere.
Yep.
Because now you're not forced to make that decision at the age of 15, 16. Am I doing this route or this route? I think what you're going to end up seeing is, I don't know what the roadmap looks like at this point. I think they have a lot of things to work through. But I think there's going to be some sort of template where you're going to see players start to join OHL teams or CHL teams. I'm not going to just limit it to the OHL, obviously, but CHL teams at age 16 probably play uh, through their 18-year-old year. And then I think probably at that point, it's going to be, are you drafted? If you're drafted, a conversation with the NHL program you're associated with, where they might
Yeah.
say, we'd rather you go play college now. And if you're not, I mean, if you're not drafted, probably at that point you can pick because I'm sure they're going to be recruited
Yeah.
to go play college as well. So, it's another tool in the belt for these NHL teams to say, we're either going to leave you in junior, we're going to ask you to go play college with some guys who are older and probably bigger, or we're going to give you a shot in the NHL. So it's a really interesting development that just allows more options all the way around. I think the talent pool is just going to grow from this. I think college hockey is going to benefit. I think the CHL is going to benefit. So
Hmm.
I really don't see any downside in this at all. I think it was, again, a long time coming, and um, it's set to take effect starting with next season. So you won't see CHL players jumping ship this year, but starting with the 25-26 season,
Yeah.
the agreement will be active. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the off season, if we're going to see some movement and who's where and what that looks like, and definitely going to be watching out for that.
Do you think this adds like another step to the hockey process that's already super complicated already? It's like you go through youth hockey, right? You start at squirts and you work your way up through midgets, and then from midgets, it's juniors like the USHL, NA, or if you're good enough, you go to the OHL, or you go
Uh-huh.
to the NCAA, like right out of high school. But do you think you see like say the CHL as a middle ground or stepping stone to the NCAA? Or do you think teams are using it as like a farm system, kind of like NCAA still, or will be?
I don't know that it's going to be like an either or. I think, where my mind goes is probably that, if you have the opportunity, because you can't play college hockey any earlier than 18 years old. You
Right,
have to be enrolled in school to play college hockey.
right,
So that's the absolute minimum. I think what you're going to end up seeing is probably players that played in the USHL are now going to be an option to play in the CHL, because the whole reason they went to the USHL
it's to go to
instead of the
college. Yeah,
CHL was because they had college scholarships lined up,
right.
and they would invalidate that if they played in the CHL. So what you're going to see is the CHL is going to get even better.
Yeah,
I worry about the future of the USHL. There's been rumblings about maybe the CHL absorbing some of those bigger USHL programs that are closer to Canada. Um, I think of some of the teams up in the northeastern U.S. joining the Q, and there's some teams in north central the U.S. that could join the OHL. The Youngstown Phantoms are a close team that could join the OHL. So I think that's possible. Some credible people out there have said they believe it's possible too.
yeah,
So I think what's going to happen is the CHL is going to get a lot better because these 16-year-olds are going to say that's my best path. And then what you're going to see is sort of a divide once kids hit college age.
yeah,
If they're 18 years old and maybe they're not drafted yet, maybe they say, I just don't feel that my role's big enough in the OHL or the CHL. I keep saying OHL because I'm such
that's
an
the
Oilers
yeah, yeah,
homer.
yeah. It's like right there.
Um, but in the CHL, maybe they say I don't like my role or I don't feel like I'm developing, and they jump ship. It's just options. I
Yeah,
think there's going to be so many options that every player's path is still going to be different. It's, probably if you're good enough to play CHL, that's probably the common piece. And then where it goes from there, once you hit 18, depending on if you're drafted or not,
yeah.
depending on if you're happy or not, I mean, you'll have options. So options is always a good thing, I think.
I hate options. Just give me a straight path. But um, yeah, I always think like I look at how many kids like they do so well out of U18 AAA or U16 AAA and go play in the USHL and play a full season and only get like 2 points or like
Yeah.
4 or 5, like a handful of points, and then they drop down to the A or the NA and they get,
Mhm.
30, 40 points, and they go to D3 college. I think the bigger question before deciding which league do I go to, especially now because there's so many options, is
Mhm.
what do I want out of hockey? I think that's where we need to start like talking about like, hey, I know your parents love you and I'm sure they think you're like a superstar, but you're just what are we doing? Like
Yeah.
what do you want? Like I want to be in the NHL, but like, okay, how do you want to get there? You have to. Are you willing to work out every day? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, so now we're doing ACHA. That's what we're doing. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like we need to define what each league offers. Like, and the NA, great path to D3. It's probably the best path to D3. And then you have the USHL, CHL, and NCAA where it's like, hey, these are the leagues. If you're in these leagues, you have an opportunity to be scouted and to move
Yep.
up into professionals. I
Yep.
think that's where we have to start the conversation and start dealing with some of these intertangled leagues now. Because Jenks, there's a new league that starts every year, and an organization will buy a rink and create a league just because they bought a rink. That's how it works now.
You
I,
know what it is, right?
it's all about that money, money,
It's
money.
all money.
So
Hey, my daddy's got $20,000 and I want to play junior hockey even though I'm the worst player of all time. So we're just going to start our own team.
yeah,
That's how it works.
there's a semi-professional beer league team right at the bottom of my hill. So anything's possible. It's just we need to start talking about what we want out of hockey.
Yeah.
And hey, I got an engineering degree. I make as much money, if not a little bit more, than pro ECHL players. And I would say even bare bones, fourth line grinders in the AHL. Maybe healthy scratch bombs in the AHL. So like let's talk about that first. Like maybe let's bump the pay raise up in some of these pro leagues and get people moving. I don't know, Jenks. I don't know. Sometimes
Hey,
it doesn't seem worth it.
that those decisions are above my pay grade. So
Somebody gets paid to make those decisions, and ain't me.
good luck, fuckers.
Oh God. All right. One last little tidbit I saved towards the end because I knew we'd ramble on a little bit, but Sid hit another record this season and is the most face-off wins in NHL history. We're getting to that weird spot, Jenks, where every week it seems like Crosby, Malkin, or Ovi are hitting something or breaking something. And that hurts my soul because I just know the end of an era is coming, and I don't want it to end, but it's coming. And I think we're seeing the trials and tribulations that we went through in 16, 17, 18 finally catching up to us. It's brutal to watch the Penguins goaltending right now. It I'm
Yeah.
not gonna put it all on Bloomquist, but it's tough.
Yeah. Uh, certainly not his fault, but if Crosby and Malkin and if all of these guys weren't hitting these milestones this year, there would have been absolutely zero good news to talk about
Yeah,
with the Pens this season. They have been just horrendous. But yeah, Crosby, it's no secret. Crosby's always been one of the best in the faceoff circle. He's a master of his craft. How many times have we seen videos on Twitter or whatever of him out there after practice grinding out face-offs.
yeah,
And face-offs are important because that's how possession starts, and he's well aware of that, and he's one of the best at it. So no surprise that this happened. I know we're still on watch for some other records for Crosby as he, as you said, winds down his career and continues to knock out some of these huge milestones. Just another achievement and one of the best players of all time.
yep. Um, and I wanted to end the hockey talk with any college news coming out of the spherical outside of the old CHL and NCAA merger.
Yeah, so we obviously have touched on great length at the biggest point out of the CHL. So we won't revisit that at this point. Um, there have been some interesting upsets and stuff to start the season. But there is one team who is just far and away dominating everyone. Denver is 10-0. They have not lost a game. They have been number one in the polls as long as I've been looking at them this year. Um, so they're going to be a heavy favorite to win it all this year. BC's having a good year. Probably the biggest surprise. I'll say there's two teams for me that are the biggest surprise. Cornell has not lost a game in regulation yet. Two big wins this past weekend. They've only played 4 games so far. A little late start to the season, but they are 3-0-1, and they're currently ranked 6th in the
Nice.
country.
That's
And
the
then
logo with the big bear with the C, right?
Yes.
Yes, got it.
Yes.
Got it.
And then Colorado College as well. Not always. They're a better team than they get credit for. But they're also undefeated to start the year. 8-0-0 through the first 4 weeks of the season here. So, couple of teams starting out hot, man. It's going to be interesting to see as we get into like conference play and stuff.
Yeah.
How this all shakes out. I know Denver's played some good teams to start the year in independent games, but they're in one of the tougher conferences in the country, so they're going to have a harder schedule as we keep going here.
Yeah.
As far as stats go here, there's Denver's the best team in the country, and they've got 2 players that are leading the way. One of their players that we've mentioned already before this year, Jack Devine, he is tied with his teammate Aiden Thompson. They both have 17 points through 10 games this season. So leading the country in points there. The number 1 goalie is actually playing for Ohio State at this point. A sophomore.
The mortal enemy.
The mortal enemy of my Penn State Nittany Lions. Christopher Eberle, 4-0 at this point with a 109 goals against average and a 954 save percentage.
Nice.
There's some other goaltenders up there who deserve credit as well. The Denver goalie, Matt Davis, is 9-0 with a 134 goals against average, so still very good, and a 942 save percentage, but has played 9 of the first 10 games and has won them all. So credit where credit is due. That is a fantastic record. We'll keep watching. I think we're getting close to the point in the season where I think we've got enough data points to start considering who are the favorites for the Hobie Baker at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that as we get on into November here. Do a little bit of watching. There's some good games coming on this coming weekend. So if you're a college hockey fan, take a look. Look at your schedule. It depends where you are in the country, regionality, what's on TV, if anything's available on TV.
Right.
A lot of them are on ESPN Plus, which is also where you get your NHL games. So take a look on ESPN Plus for college hockey games. Yeah, that's the high level update on college this week.
There's a clip floating around of the Minnesota guys sweeping Wisconsin over this past weekend, and overtime game-winning goal. Pretty much just a saucer pass to the moon, and the guy I don't know his last name, but the kid out front from Minnesota just snags it out of the air with his hockey stick past the goaltender, and he's just beating on the student section like, "You like that, huh?" And then he's just hugging the boys at the end. It's pretty sick to see. Like, that's what college is, man. Like, that's like the atmosphere that I miss and used to enjoy, just being with the boys and just absolutely ragdolling teams out there like the Penn State Baron Nittany Lions, that's for sure.
Oh, God.
5 guys on the bench. Christ almighty.
Hey, if you're bored this weekend, Gannon, Penn State Baron.
I mean, that's not
at the
they're
EIA.
gonna get God, that's not even a real game anymore. I mean, there's no dogs on the team. You know, you don't have somebody like Zach you got to try to like contain from ripping somebody's head off, or you know, Pat that's gonna cross check you in the back if you know touch
And
him.
and then he's gonna take a 10 for saying something dumb.
Yeah, so it's a little different. And then you have your 30-year-old goalie that used to play D3, that used to play in the USHL, that now just like rocks beers all day. So I don't know. It's a little different vibe, but it is what it is. Let's get to the fan favorite section of the podcast. Writing on the wall pick. We're doing November 16th. Full slate of games to pick from. Jenks, what is your writing on the wall pick?
Well, I was thinking about this, and you always ask me first. So why don't I flip this on its head and allow you to go first
Wow.
this week?
Okay. Well, I ask you because I'm still deciding between games,
Oh,
but I am committed to this game right now. We talked about the West. The West is always a trash bag of teams. They usually never win the cup outside the Avs. Avs in Vegas in the past recent year. But this team, we've touched on it, has been lights out so far at the beginning of the season. Yes, they've been to OT. Yes, they've been to shootouts. Those don't matter when you get points either way. But I'm looking at the Minnesota Wild as they take on inter-division team Dallas Stars. Now, Dallas always plays hard, but I think Tyler Seguin, if he knows what to do, he knows how to let you down in fantasy hockey. That's his number one go-to move. He always does it. So I'm taking Minnesota over Dallas Stars on the 16th. You can book that one responsibly.
Ooh, I like that pick, and I'm glad I let you go first because I was looking at that one as a leading candidate here.
Okay.
But there's one other game that I like too, and this is going to be a bit of a hot take, especially because we've already talked about this team at length on this podcast. But the Winnipeg Jets are just too hot right now. They're going to be making a just about as far a trip as you could possibly make from Winnipeg to Sunrise, Florida, play the Panthers on Saturday. Plain legs is a whole different kind of legs, okay? Florida is on home ice, and they're no slouch this year either. They're first in their division, Stanley Cup champions from last year.
Yeah.
Certainly, this has the makings of you guys are playing really well, but we're going to shut you down, and we're going to shut you down hard.
Love that.
I'm taking the Florida Panthers at home over the first place Winnipeg Jets on Saturday, so you can book that responsibly.
Of course, as always. That's a good pick. Not gonna lie, I did look at that. I sniffed around it, but I'm like, it's a trap. They want you to take the Panthers, but we'll see. I think that's a real thing too. Although I never had plane legs because I never rode on a plane that far before. It was always hop in the car. It was more bus legs than plane legs, so you can get around and stretch a little bit. So that's going to do it for us, guys. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Black Aces Hockey. Make sure to keep in touch with us on Spotify if that's your listening device of choice. Any last words for the people, Jenks?
Get out and support your local hockey team. I'm a big fan of all the hockey you can possibly take. If you've got a local team, I'm going to make this statement this week. If you've got a local team, if it's juniors or minor pro or whatever, let's get out to a game. Go support your local hockey. How about that?
I like that, Jenks. Go support some hockey, and we're out of here. My name is Ben Adams. I'm right here, as always, with your co-host, Nick Jenks.